You see the Hawaii Eagles just tweeted out their show. 2 MFers in it.
Why not?
I remember that feeling.
That's exactly how
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR show. Presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use the code DNVR365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Thank you for joining us in the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. We're back in the Camry today. I should start calling it that, the two-man
I like
show.
that, dude. The Camry.
The Camry, you know?
Back in the
We
Camry.
can get in the Tacoma. We can get in the full-size Tundra later on, maybe when everybody's back. Great show for you lined up today because there's a big topic everybody wants to talk about. Russell Westbrook. What do you do? What do you do with him? The Hall of Famer.
What do you do with a guy like Westbrook?
What do you do, man? We're going to talk about that. Some really good mailbag questions came through, so we're going to get to those as well. And then later on, it is All-Star Weekend. Doesn't necessarily feel like it to me at the moment, but it is All-Star Weekend.
That's only because you've spent your whole season selling Julian Strother. Maybe if you were a real fan, you'd be feeling the juice right now.
That's
bro.
so true, man.
I'm just
So
kidding.
true. Brendan Vogt's in the house.
Hey, what's up, man? How are you? Want to do another two-man?
Little two-man game,
A
man.
lot's changed in Nuggets land since we last convened, so we've got plenty to talk about.
A lot of breaking news.
A lot of breaking news, yeah.
I am excited for it, though, man. Reminder that Superstar Dev is going to be away on All-Star Weekend. You know, some people wonder, how do you guys make content, you know, at DNVR? Dev's like, can I go? And we're like, all right, we'll send our G with you.
And that's the plan.
And that's the plan. Who knows where we go from here?
Make
but
something good, buddy.
something crazy will happen of it. What do you think, man? What are the odds he goes to jail or like...
It can't be overstated that anything's on the table.
Yeah.
That's really it.
Yeah.
That's really it. But I know when you send anyone with RG, you're going to get some good content that makes you feel like you're on the ground. And Dev is just a champion of the people. So one way or another, it's going to help. It's going to help the DNVR diehards feel like they're there, which is what we try to do. You know, that's our thing.
Speaking of feeling like you're there, I haven't even watched the latest Spotlight, the Jamal Murray 55-piece one.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. I'm sure it is. Like I got a nice little weekend ahead of me. I will definitely catch up on it. But if you haven't watched it either, make sure you head on over there right after this show and check that one out. Let's get into some topics here. So it's the elephant in the room. Russell Westbrook takes over for Jamal Murray in the starting lineup. And he plays amazingly well. Things are going great. The ball is popping. Yoke's scoring like crazy because he's getting fed nice dishes right in the paint. And everything's going so well that we're sitting here thinking, like, of course you start him. You have to start him. Christian Brown, meanwhile, as his running mate, as the shooting guard spot, also playing well.
Pretty good year.
His best game of his entire life in that Minnesota game. And then everybody gets back healthy. And the move goes, Christian Brown, you go to the bench.
Congrats on the career high.
Yeah, congrats on the career high and all the season where you're an MIP candidate. Thanks for all that. But you're on the bench now. Russell Westbrook starts. Didn't go so well for a short stint. Vibes seemed a little loud. I'm not saying it was because of that. Maybe it was, but a little bit of a fumble. But then Westbrook gets hurt. And it's like, okay, back to the old starting lineup. But what happened since then?
Well, they look pretty good.
8-game winning streak.
8-game winning streak.
8-game winning streak. Now, let's get out in front of this vote. I think Westbrook has been phenomenal this year.
No doubt.
I think Murray is looking phenomenal recently, and by recently, last 2 months. I think Christian Brown is having by far the best year of his career and exceeded all of our wildest expectations. There's nobody here that has, like, there's 3 guys that have earned 2 spots in a lot of ways, right? There's 3 guys, and none of them have done anything wrong to deserve to be taken out of the starting lineup. But it is a puzzle.
There can only be 5, and as Calvin Booth so eloquently put, they might have 6 or 7 here. So, yeah, that is the important preface. That as you're talking about Christian or Russ, you're not sitting here saying, well, actually, one of them stinks. No,
right?
They've both been fine additions to the starting lineup, but there's I think there's a little bit of trying to identify whatever your plan A is for the playoffs. You're probably getting closer and closer to just narrowing things down, right? To that rotation and auditioning those guys and building that confidence. So whether that's Russ or Christian, if Malone feels like he has an idea on who is going to start in game one of the playoffs, I think that's the direction you need to go in now. It's been awesome that everyone's been able to contribute, as we've said, these kind of fractal pieces of success and peaks. But there is a little bit of figuring out, all right, what's plan A? And whatever that is, I think you need to start putting your eggs in that basket, to some extent here in the second half of the season.
Yeah. Let's go through some numbers, shall we? If we look at the starting lineup, Murray included, with Christian Brown in the shooting guard spot, we have 262 minutes to go off of through 16 games. 123.4 offensive rating. That's really good. 112.4 defensive rating for the Nuggets. That's good. Plus 11 net rating. So plus 11 net rating is what you need to know. If you put Westbrook into that role, Jamal Murray is also on the floor. 82 minutes. So you're talking about less than 1/4 of the minutes. It's a much smaller sample size. 130.6 offensive rating, which is insane. Doesn't feel real. Like, it does feel like if you got to 260 minutes, that number, we've never seen that number before, so likely it's going to drop. But nonetheless, you don't think it's going to drop that low. Like, it's going to be a juggernaut offensive lineup. 112.5 defensive rating, which means it plus 18.1. So plus 11 net, plus 18, albeit in smaller sample size. Like, when you hear those numbers, does it tell the story? Does it mean something? Or, like, what does it mean?
Well, I think as far as the Russ numbers, that is just a reflection of what was the story there in the middle of the season for a bit, which was Jokic and Russ together.
Yeah.
And I just kind of think in this 82 game environment of any given opponent at any given night, we didn't see that pass coming, and they're throwing it, and Russ is just spamming the get the ball to Jokic button. I think unsurprisingly, like that, how sustainable it is over a larger sample size, good question. But there's something about, well, yeah, man, Russ and Jokic together and just giving the ball to Jokic every time.
Yeah,
that's going to work. The funny but to that is Jokic spends parts of his season trying to do other things, getting Mike involved, getting Jamal involved, making sure the young guys are up to speed. But there's really no doubt that if you wanted to break records offensively, you would just give the ball to him every time. And that's what Russ does.
What's interesting is when you go through the numbers, a lot of the numbers are identical except for one. They offensive rebound like a monster with Westbrook on the court in those 82 minutes. Offensive rebounds, when we talk about like variance in a small sample size, and 82, even 262 minutes is something of a small sample size. 82 for a 5-man lineup, super small sample size. 42.7% offensive rebound percentage in 82 minutes. That's roughly 150 possessions where they grabbed half of the available offensive rebounds.
Yeah, I guess what if you have Russ and Jokic on the floor at the same time?
Tenacious.
That alone is it. And then we know CB can do that, but what would you say has been the calling card of CB season? Getting out in transition and running. So that was one of the very tangible kind of on the court things we expected to see from Russ, which is rebounding, particularly the offensive rebounding. That's something that I do think would carry over even into the postseason.
I look at these numbers and I say, if I were to project, yes, one's plus 11, one's plus 18, I would project that if we got an extended run with Westbrook to up to 200 minutes, it would probably fall to somewhere where those two numbers are even. What's interesting is the defensive marks are almost identical, 112.4, 112.5. It's just that one offense, 131 offensive rating is insane. That's so high that I just don't think you could sustain that for long periods of time. But I don't know if that's even how I consider this. The thing that's nice is that they have looked good with all configurations of those three guards. When you had your core guys, they've looked good.
Yeah.
I just say full stop. So unless you feel that difference, that 7-point net difference means something with the sample size being different, then I think you have to actually not step back, or you have to not look at that and say, okay, well, which one's better and we'll go for it. You almost have to say they're both good. So what are the other circumstances?
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. And also, too, man, you're narrowing down that rotation in the postseason, right? So if you're just talking about a postseason, like who starts and who doesn't, either one of them, I think you're still finding a lot of minutes alongside Jokic and a lot of minutes alongside the starters. So I actually still think either one of them should still be able to produce in that role. Are you getting at when you say other circumstances, matchup dependent? What do you mean by that?
That could be interesting, matchup dependent, because I've always said that I don't know that Denver should have a fixed starting lineup. I do think that you can be a little bit more matchup dependent and first of all, you get into a playoff scenario and you have a team that has perfected that, it can be to your advantage. How do we prep for them? How are they starting? What are they going to throw at us? Oh my God, they're bringing so-and-so off the bench. It can throw you for a loop. But I actually mean more the staggers behind it. Yep. What does it do to your rotation if Russ starts? What does it do to your rotation if CB starts?
And I think
it's the biggest consideration.
I agree. And the way I was thinking about it this morning really is, I think rather than doubling up on having these two, good playmaking guards that get the ball to Jokic and three playmakers on the floor at the same time, I actually like the idea of staggering, like making sure you have one of Jamal or Russ next to Jokic at all times.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at would be bringing Russ off the bench, but playing a boatload, right? Yeah. In the playoffs, Russ off the bench and then spelling Jamal and just making sure that between those three guys, you've got a very good to great to elite playmaker on the floor at all times. And that I think should be doable once you shrink it down to 8, even 7 sometimes guys, as they will.
And I think another consideration here is who is best off of the bench. And the truth is, I think both struggle if they're not playing with Jokic. So if you're off the bench, it just feels like fewer of your minutes will be there. Russ has been phenomenal with Jokic. Is there a rotation you can work out where he's playing primarily with Jokic even though he's not starting? I don't know. Does he come in for Murray early on, but does that throw Murray's rhythm off at a moment right when he is starting to kind of get his footing under him? Those are considerations. But as much as Russ struggles without Jokic, CB2 is a pretty, some guys are impacted more than others. I think CB is a guy that gets out in transition. Jokic finds him all the time, cuts really well, and then on top of that, just his limitations are also mitigated by Jokic. If you put him on the bench, are we asking him to get into his bag a little bit more in a way that doesn't work?
Right. We've enjoyed watching him get into his bag at the end of games that have gone his way where he's feeling really confident. But the truth is, he would tell you, he'd be the first to tell you, he's feasting off of playing alongside Jokic and playing harder than everyone else. And so I don't want to say they're easy points because he works hard for them, but he works hard to create easy scoring opportunities alongside Jokic that just frankly probably won't be there with the bench. And I don't think you look at CB as much as we don't want to put a ceiling on him right now. As things stand, he's not a creator. He's not creating his own shot. That's not how you look at him. So it's the case with both of those guys. It's the case with virtually everyone on the roster that to get the best out of them, they got to be next to him.
So for me, I think the consideration now is more about your rotation, which is why I land pretty firmly on the idea that the Nuggets' identity is Murray Jokic. It just has to be. They have other identities. And in most years, they don't. But this year, they actually do have alternative identities that are pretty good. And Russ Jokic is one of those. I think you start Jokic with CB there because I think the Nuggets know what their identity is. I also think there is a important message that is sent there of hey, man, it doesn't matter who it is. The Hall of Famer who's having a great year for us is coming off the bench. Russ, I think, would go a long way to, and then, by the way, I don't know if he would. I think Russ probably would like to start.
I'm sure he would.
So I think there's a level of if the Hall of Famer is willing to do that, we get to this post-All-Star break period of the show, or of the season, that we now have to, that would set a tone to me of this year now gets real and we need to start building to who we are. But on top of that, I think Jamal Murray is the rhythm player. So I don't think you can give him a 6-minute stint and pull him out and then put him back in. I like the idea of Jokic and Jamal both playing extended minutes in the first quarter. Murray probably 9, Jokic all 12 or 11 of them. It's kind of what his rhythm is. And then bringing Russ in so that you get 6 minutes to establish that Murray-Jokic two-man game. If Murray's having a little flurry, ride that out. Russ, you come in and rebound, do some of that stuff.
Right.
But if not, the typical speed would be Russ comes in and throws the counter punch.
Yep.
It's okay, you guys, the defense just got adjusted to the Murray-Jokic two-man game, got off to a hot start.
Fast.
Now, all of a sudden, there's a whole new thing, and Murray spends those last 3 minutes of his first stint off ball.
I agree. I've been thinking Russ off the bench, but Russ off the bench as a weapon, right? As this is a different look we can provide, and then either way, you're pairing Jokic with one of these guys. That's how I look at it. And because I mean, Russ fans in the chat, I think, have rightfully pointed out, great winning streak, not the most stout competition. Fair. Fair.
For sure.
But I do think they've worked their way back to this is about Murray and Jokic at its core. And we do want to have these other layers. We don't want to be one-dimensional across 82. But I think that was a nice reminder for all of us of what their very best punch still looks like. So I'm with you on this. And I was in favor of starting Russ at one point.
He was playing so well.
He was playing great, and I didn't want to change it up.
And he didn't stop playing well.
He just got hurt, and now CB looks great. And I'm trending back towards riding this out and just having Russ as a spell option, a different pace option off the bench. But again, Malone loves this guy. Either one of these guys are playing a boatload. That's the thing you have to remember as a fan of either one is we're not really talking about limiting one of them so much as there's only 5. There's only 5 spots.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to wrap this conversation up and get to more of your mailbag questions.
How about UC Health? And I've got this nice open spot here, nice open read, custom read to talk to you guys about my idea of health and ways that I'm trying to get healthier. And honestly, I'm sort of having a bit of a realization moment here, covering all these great athletes, Hall of Famers and Jokic and Russ, talking to coaches about what makes people the best versions of themselves. And there are a lot of magical qualities we want to imbue on these guys, but at the core of all of it is work. And at the core of that are building habits, healthy habits. And so that's not just about working hard in the gym and posting on IG. It's being consistent. And when do you go to bed? What do you eat? How much water are you drinking? So these are all things that go into winning long before anyone steps on the court. And honestly, what I'm getting at is that you don't have to be stepping onto a court to be thinking about yourself and your body this way. Be the best version of yourself. Keep score, man. Be brave enough to keep score. And again, know that your best route at winning is by putting yourself in a spot by being healthy, right? So make sure you're keeping track of sleep. Make sure you're drinking water. It's all stuff people say to you every day, but it's all stuff that's really, really easy to just sort of overlook as you build your habits day to day. Learn more about living like there is a tomorrow by going to uchealth.org for more info. UC Health, living extraordinary. By the way, UC Health tweeted out today, Jamal Murray spent his Valentine's Day hanging out with some patients at the hospital, which I thought was really cool. So I retweeted that. You can check out the pictures. Actually, it looks really, really wholesome. So shout out Jamal Murray for that. And shout out Mando, because body odor, well, it's not armpit odor, it's body odor. It's a whole body experience. And sometimes we think once we've swiped on that stick deodorant on the arm that we're good to go. No chance, man. If someone thought you smelled bad before, they still do now. Make sure you take care of the body odor using Mando, a men's deodorant brand that's hyper-focused on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean. We're talking pits, bellies, buttons, balls, butt cracks, grundles, munders, and more. Mando. They've got a starter pack, perfect for new customers. Comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. You're going to want to use use code DNVR at shopmando.com. That's code DNVR at shopmando.com. Please support our show. Tell them we're the ones that sent you.
We're back here, segment 2, DNVR Nuggets Podcast. Throw us a like, throw us a subscribe. So to put a bow on this, what do you think Michael Malone is going to do? And here's one thing that I believe of Michael Malone, and I think Michael Malone has made an adjustment in the last month or so, a couple weeks or so, lightened up a little bit. But one thing is, I think it's hard to tell a player like Russell Westbrook, we put you in the starting lineup, you got injured, now you're not coming back.
Yeah.
You got Wally pipped. Because it almost sets a bad precedent. Like now Russ is like, well, what did I do? Weren't we playing great too when I was there? So I'm curious, one, if Russ would accept this at this stage of his career. One of the reasons we loved Russ, he was coming off the bench to start the year, seemed to have enthusiasm for it. Wasn't a problem. But then when you give him a starting spot,
right,
now you're actually taking it away. It's not that we're leaving you on the bench. It's, we had everyone healthy and you started. Now we have everyone healthy and you're not. So what do you think Michael Malone will do, and what do you think the response would be to whatever decision he makes?
It's a really, really good question, and obviously I can only project and guess here on how Russ would feel. My optimistic perspective is the pitch is, hey, man, you're coming off the bench. so that you're still playing a lot and the ball's in your hands.
Yeah.
The ball is in your hands, right? Like when Jamal's playing with Jokic, the ball's going to be in his hands, man, especially as we head towards the postseason. But I want the ball to be in your hands too. So yes, you're coming off the bench, but it's not so we can play other stars ahead of you or stick you in the corner. We still want you to be Russ.
Yeah.
And this is the best path to you being Russ. I think that he might respond well to, because he seems to be really enjoying the role that he's been given in Denver. And I don't just mean starting, I mean ball in his hands. So if that's the pitch, I'm hopeful he's receptive to that, because he really, for a guy once labeled a vampire in the locker room.
Right.
I mean, we haven't heard a peep about any discontent or how that's ruffled anyone's feathers the wrong way.
But what do you think? So you think Malone will do this? We'll say, hey, this is who we are. We had a little nice run with Russ. We need you off the bench, and you're going to play a lot of minutes, but this is the role you need. You think that's the if you were a betting man, you would bet on that?
I think so. I think they're going to I mean, part of it is, Malone's a if it ain't broke, don't fix it guy.
Yeah.
And that's gone both ways now.
Yeah.
Before Russ's injury, that was the same logic I was deploying to think, he's just going to keep starting Russ.
Yeah.
Then Russ gets hurt. Now it's 8 in a row. CB's playing great. I think he's going to kick the tires on that option.
Yeah.
See how Russ feels about it. And if Russ is all go, I think that's the move.
Yeah. I think so too, but I'm very curious. Michael Malone has never really been in the spots all the way since 2016 when he had to decide between Nurkic or Jokic. Yeah. That was the last time that he was in this mode. And he made the wrong choice. And he made the choice, by the way, for the vibes of the team, right? Jokic came to him, I'll come off the bench. Nurkic, a little more, I'm not sure that we can handle it. So he's like, all right, I'll make that. Even though it's so clearly the wrong choice, he made the choice that had, in my opinion, the path of least resistance from a vibe standpoint. I'm not sure telling Russ to come off the bench is that. I think Christian is, because Christian's a young player, and I think in a lot of ways it's like, well, he might be just upset this summer when he gets his contract, but I don't know that it would disrupt the March, April, May, June portion.
It could upset Christian, and that might have no impact on the bottom line of how Christian's approaching this, right? And Christian is frankly younger, and Malone is the only coach he's ever played for.
No.
To do it with Russ, this would be the biggest example yet of Malone's cachet and, hey man, I'm a championship winning coach and this is how we do it here. And I don't mean that as like a ego arm wrestling match. It's a hard thing to even try, right? Like if you're Jordy Fernandez, you're probably not telling Russ that he can't start, but maybe Malone can, particularly because Russ has seemingly been receptive to how they've used him so far.
Let us know in the comments, both in the live chat and also in the comments below, because I'm curious just what the general pulse is. In fact, Kale, maybe even put out a poll. I'd be curious. Who do you start, Russ or CB? I'm just curious where the temperature is. My hunch is CB, but who knows? I will say there is a cushy middle where this works perfectly, and then we get something the Nuggets have never had, which is a second punch that just like you build a 5-point lead, and all of a sudden you build another 5-point lead on top of it, and that would be the best case scenario. We had some mailbag questions, I understand. We reached into the mailbag. What do we got, Kale? All right. Oh, I should have given you a little bit more time on that one.
Here we go.
Andy Jewett, shout out to homie.
Our old friend.
Do you think I saw him at Ball Arena in the flyest jacket the other day. That's all. That's the end of the story. Do you think it's actually possible for Zeke and or Pickett to play in the playoffs? What amount of goodwill does Hunter Tyson have left?
All right. So first of all, the Hunter Tyson piece of this, to me, it's funny. He's skated under the radar because he's rarely discussed. Have you seen enough with him? Do you feel like you know?
No. I know he hustles really hard.
Is it an impactful hustle?
Hunter, I think it could be if you're playing a bad team and your guys aren't hustling. But no, I mean, look, Hunter's chance. It's a pretty low bar, huh?
Yeah. I like it.
It's a bar, though. If
everyone else is like sick, I do feel like he is.
If you really don't feel like Mike's hustling, all right. But I mean, his chance to really put a dent, I think, in how he's viewed this year was to hit open shots.
Yeah,
and he
for
didn't.
sure.
And they did give him a little. They did give him a little bit of that Jalen Pickett. Hey, you're the next guy earlier in the year, and it never came together. So. No, man, I don't feel like I know what Hunter is unless I'm confident that he's not an impact player.
As for the other two, I agree with you. First of all, to me, these second-round picks are always a long shot. The fact that the Nuggets gave them guaranteed contracts is the thing that you really question. But it was always a long shot that like Hunter Tyson was going to be a player. I don't think he can guard at the NBA level. And the shooting, it's tough, man, when you're in his role because you don't get that many shots. How many shots has he taken at the NBA level? Not that many.
Yeah.
He just hasn't made very many. And so it's one of those things where he would have to be an especially good and consistent shooter for you to be like, well, we knew he had these limitations. And the fact that he had a limited opportunity and didn't do that, to me, he's so far out of sight. Do you think it's possible for Zeke or Pickett to play in the playoffs? Yes. I think less so for Pickett. But I do think there's a chance with Zeke Naji, because I think Zeke Naji is going to get an opportunity here over these next couple weeks. If there's an injury and Pickett plays more and consistently plays well, sure, I could see it happening. But look, Pickett had a good 10 days. You know what I mean? Like, he had a good 10 days. Zeke at least fills a position of need that's a little bit more urgent. So is there a world, especially when you look at Dallas can play big, although all their bigs are hurt at the moment. Minnesota can play big. Is there a world where that he has to be the guy counted on to go and guard Naz Reid or Gafford or, one of these guys?
I mean, if there's a world where he's a plus defender at plus size, then yeah. I mean, if I just said go veil of ignorance here, take names, take all of it out, and I said the Nuggets are going to add a forwardish big that moves his feet well and could defend, you'd probably take that, right?
Yeah.
So there's room for him to play if he proves to you that that's what he can do here for a sustainable stretch.
Over under Zeke minutes in the playoffs, 5 minutes and 55 seconds. I thought that was good, no?
It's really good. I'm going to say, I was too busy considering it as a real question to laugh. I'm going to say over. How about that?
There you go.
I don't know if that's true.
I'm going to say under.
That's
I don't think it's
a better call.
All right, what else we got?
Sean English, do you think the Nuggets care about seeding potential playoff matchups, or would they rather just go it healthy no matter who's in their path?
Man, this is a really good question. Here's what's interesting about this question. Their number one competition for the 2 seed appears to be the Memphis Grizzlies. If the playoffs started today, would you count the Memphis Grizzlies into the second round? Almost certainly, depending on matchup, or like almost certainly not?
I would say depending on matchup. Is that hating?
No, but I mean, I'm going to hate. What's the good matchup for them?
What's the good matchup for them, or
the good one? I'm asking right now because I want to hear like what you think is the.
I see what you're saying.
Because I would say that I think they're very likely not to win their first round, and I have respect for them. To me, here's what they run the fewest pick and rolls of any. They do some things that are like they're the ultimate knuckleball team. Like you play them, and it's like, all right, all those things that other teams do, they don't do any of it. But in the playoffs, it's like, all right, what do we do here?
Line drive. I mean, could they beat Phoenix if Phoenix makes it?
Phoenix isn't making it.
Phoenix isn't making it, so there's that.
Okay, yeah, Phoenix, San Antonio, they could beat, but I don't think they're making it.
They're going to make it.
We're talking about making it all the way up to the 7 seed, which means you're going to have to be at the top of the.
Yeah.
So here are the teams that are going to be in contention for that: the Houston Rockets. Maybe they could if the Rockets fall that far. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Timberwolves, the Mavericks, and maybe one of the Kings or Warriors. Maybe one of those teams, but we're still talking about those teams climbing up to there.
I think they could beat the Kings, but that's a maybe. I get your point. Here's what you're getting at.
So I look at that and I just go, Minnesota would beat them. Dallas, I think, would beat them. Clippers would beat them. Lakers would beat them. And if the Rockets fall all the way down there, that's your hope because there's 2 inexperienced teams. But you know what? I would take the Rockets, I think, in that one. I look at that and I go, if I'm Denver and I calculate those odds and you're in the 2 seed, but you have the Timberwolves are the team likely to be there, and you can pick your matchup against the team you maybe feel a little bit better about. I would not be surprised if Denver said, you know what, we'll probably have home court advantage anyway because they're going to lose in the first round, and we don't want to have to face Minnesota in round 1.
I agree. I think if you want a top 4 seed, you want that for sure. But I think the one team you would worry about angling in any way for is OKC. Like that's the one.
And you can't avoid them.
And you can't avoid them, right? So
And you're not going to fall to the 6 seed. Like if Denver's a 4-5, it would be a little shocking for them to fall to the 6.
And if you're going to win a title, you got to go through those boys eventually, I think. So yeah, I think it's mostly about staying healthy and answering some of these questions we've raised in the last 2 episodes about what exactly does it look like when everyone's healthy.
If you go to the rest portion of this, I do think if it was just for rest purposes, not necessarily dodging, Malone's going to have his finger on the pulse. And I don't think it's ever like one game that you throw for rest. That doesn't make sense. But I could see them being in the final 2 weeks of the season and, man, we really should get Yoke back in that fourth quarter with 11 minutes to go. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. We'll ride this out to this 8-minute mark because we're not going to overreact right now.
Or Zeke's played really well today. Does he have 5 more minutes in him?
Try it out again.
Just try it. And I would be in favor of that because I think what you have is a chance here sneakily to be in decent shape as a seed record-wise heading into the playoffs and maybe feel like you didn't kill yourselves getting there quite like you did last season. Or rather, it's more like last year they just threw their best punch over and over again.
Yeah.
Like 82 times. Yeah. And this year, as we've talked about, it's been different than that. So stay healthy. And I think you feel good about just about every series except for OKC, just giving credit to what they've done.
All right, let's take our break. On the other side, some more mailbag questions, and then later on, we're going to preview what we expect from Jokic at All-Star this year.
Oh, is he going?
He made it.
He made it. How about Breckenridge Brewery? I'm actually on my way up to the real Breckenridge after this show. I'm going to try the Breckenridge Distillery, by the way. That's not what this ad read is for, though. Talking about the official craft beer of DNVR. I love Breck Brew. They're some of our first friends here at DNVR. They've been with us essentially the whole way, man. And when we first got this bar, we were so excited about filling it up with all those delicious craft brews that they offer at Breck Brew. And sometimes we do shows live there as well at the farmhouse.
Those are always fun.
Always fun, man. Always fun. Breckenridge Brewery, very Colorado, very DNVR. And they have a little giveaway going on. We've told you about this, the Ice Deck giveaway. 2 VIP tickets on the glass, complimentary food and drink. This is March 29th for St. Louis, so still plenty of time. breckbrew.com/ice deck to enter. And when you're hanging out at breckbrew.com, check out the beer locator. Tell it where you are. Tell it what beer you like. It'll tell you where to go next if you want to get your hands on it. I like when life's that easy. Do I get to talk about the distillery now? Do I have that right? Now I do. I'm very excited to try that bourbon, that Breckenridge bourbon at the highest distillery, the Breckenridge Distillery.
This is a super dope tasting room. I'm excited for you to see it.
That's what it says here in my copy, that the tasting room's really cool and worth checking out. And that's actually on my to-do list this weekend.
I'm working on a way to get us there on a road trip this summer.
I would love that, man.
Off season, we all go to the Breck Distillery. And brewery. Why not?
Where we could.
Drunkest day ever in DNVR Nuggets history.
Eat at their award-winning restaurant. Not really, though. The parade still happens.
That's true.
Enjoy show-stopping cocktails. Learn about their highly awarded spirits with an in-depth tasting. I'm going to use code, I'm not. You can. You can use code DNVR at checkout for free shipping on all orders over $99. Learn more at BreckenridgeDistillery.com.
All right, we are back here. We're going to go back into the mailbag. Everybody throw us a like. Also participate. These questions, open-ended. You guys can answer them as well. By the way, do we have early returns on the Russ versus CB?
I'll check once we do this question.
Okay.
Jake Coyne, shout out.
Oh, the homie.
The Stat Squatch. Excuse me. Who will be the next non-Jokic player of the Nuggets to make an all-star team? And we can also include players who are not currently Nuggets. That's a fun wrinkle. Also related of this year's All-Stars, who would you most like to see play next to Jokic on the Denver Nuggets?
Ooh, that's an interesting one, too. Well, let's go to the first part first. The next Nuggets player to be an All-Star. It's just so hard to envision Jamal Murray being an All-Star.
And he is the guy that you would go to next.
We're past the period of complaining. We've complained a lot. We're past it now because he's playing great and he's back in shape and fully healthy and doing all those things and looks great. But if you were to put a gun to my head and said, what's Jamal Murray look like in October of 2025? I'd say probably 18 points a game.
Yeah.
So maybe 16.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's awesome that he's doing this again. He most certainly will do it again, I think, next year. So it is hard. I believe that what we've seen from Mike is in a different developmental timeline where he just got the ball a lot and shot 20 times a night. he would play his way up to that level. That's not what he is in Denver. That's not what they're asking him to be. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question. Is it Christian Brown? Is that insane?
There's no way it's Christian Brown. I love it. I shouldn't say no way. Let's leave the door open. I didn't think he would be a 15-point per game scorer, but I can't imagine. Like, he's still, to be an all-star, it's like you almost have to not just do it in one way. You have to do it in a very specific way that feels all-star-y. I don't know if he'll do that. I think if you were handicapping this, we went to Bet365 and handicapped this very thing. I think Jamal Murray is most likely.
Has to be.
But if I were to go second most likely and he wanted us to give somebody outside the Nuggets, let's get a little spicy.
All right, let's do it.
Luka Doncic!
Oh, man.
Luka Doncic! I'm not saying it's going to happen, but yeah, there it is, 5 peppers.
Let's do it.
But you know, if we are doing brightest timeline, don't the Nuggets just win this year and next? They got a nice little two-peat going, and Luka's has had the worst time ever in LA. Maybe LeBron's still around, and he's like, this is miserable, and they lose him. Isn't that the brightest timeline? Not only to inflict pain by winning championships, but also to be like, hey, you guys remember when you mortgaged the future? He's our guy now.
That would be awesome. Yes, that would be amazing. Also, just saying, I know he's going to, but he doesn't have to sign that extension. It's not like it's not like he's getting the top tier Supermax with them, right? So doesn't have to. I will also say this. He had my favorite quote, because I also used to say this, Adam, when I was kind of sad about living in LA.
Yeah.
My favorite Luka quote. I mean, I've got the ocean here. That's a pretty big thing for me. That's what everyone who's depressed about living in LA.
And he'll go to the ocean twice.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I did. Yeah. Never say never.
What did Jokic say when he got announced with the Lakers? He's like, I think he is a guy for that lifestyle or
for
something,
for the big scene
or something. I think he's a player for the big scene. But you know what? Maybe he's not. Maybe you get out there and it's like, you know what sucks? Playing for the Lakers when they're not good. And if that happens to him, he's like, you know what, man? I'm not happy. I'm going to go play with my buddy Yoke.
Why not? Why not? Dream big, right? That's how we got here in the first place.
Yeah. But although, at the moment, love my team. So I put it 2 years out. 2 years out, you guys. I'm not trying to get him over here now.
I just don't think it'll be any of these fellas.
The other one, like who most fun for him or would you most want him to play with from the All-Star?
Wemby.
Victor Wembanyama.
What would you do on their team?
Yeah, I don't know, man. He is fun.
I just mean defensively.
Yeah.
I still want to see Jokic with Steph.
Yeah.
Giannis is always up there for me too.
Giannis to me is the guy that I look at that I'm like, you know what, fun. But if I give you a dark horse answer, man, Nuggets fans are going to hate me for this one. And it's like, we hate him. We hate him. But I think Anthony Edwards could be pretty saucy in Denver. I think he could be pretty saucy. And the thing about Anthony Edwards is, you need him to play, a handful more years and fail. Because I think he's a guy at the moment that thinks, like, I know how to win. You do this stuff, 8 threes, step back, sidestep. You need him to lose a little bit and want to go to Jokic Academy.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, brother, we don't mind double teams over here.
Yeah, we don't mind it.
We embrace them.
You got to learn how to do it, Anthony Edwards. But he would be pretty fun. I mean, how would you stop? Like, he's such a good off the dribble shooter, explosive first step, can guard the pick and roll. So like they'd
be insanely fun to watch.
They would be very fun to watch together.
But I do really think that if defensively Jokic was next to either Wemby or Giannis,
yeah,
like actually game over.
Yeah. I do like though just this idea of like, oh, why do I want Luka to stick it to the Lakers?
Oh yeah,
you get Anthony Edwards. Like, sorry, Minnesota.
Yeah, and I like it is like that for Nuggets fans. Lakers fans will be like, oh, they beat us. That was their finals. Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah.
Nuggets fans don't like you guys very much.
Yeah.
So if we could take everything from you, we will.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
David, do we just need to assume Jamal is going to work himself into shape yearly? Should the front office be okay with that for his price tag? Playing great now, and we love him. Not exactly fair to a guy like Jokic, says David.
This has been one of my big things all along with the Murray approach, and I know a lot of people will say, oh, it's injuries. Clearly, it's just injuries. I feel pretty confident saying that's part of it. It's part of it, but not all of it, and I don't think most of it. He has been a slow starter even before the injuries. I don't think you can accept it. You win a title this year, you're going to accept it. The Nuggets didn't win a title last year, and they still accepted it, gave him a max contract. But I do think that at some point this could be a stain on Murray that he doesn't want to have to carry. Murray is, by all accounts, a beloved Nugget, an all-time most beloved Nugget. But there's that one thing about him that keeps you holding back, which is why I think one of the things when we watch sports just as average Joes, right? Most people that watch it just average Joes, but you watch it to be inspired. This is what greatness looks like, and the best athletes in the world give you greatness. And one of the biggest sins is when you don't maximize your own greatness. He's playing great right now. He looks like he's on his way, but it will always wonder, what if you just started off that way?
Yeah.
And throughout the year, you ramped up even higher. Like, what's Murray's ceiling is the craziest question to ask in basketball. At times, he's better than Jason Tatum or LeBron James. You know, like he can play at that level. And then at times, he's not that. He's not even close to it. So I don't think the Nuggets will grin and bear it as so long as they're winning. And if they win this year and he comes in out of shape, guess what? They'll grin and bear it. They won't say anything. But I do hope that this was the last time we saw that, because I want to see what true greatness looks like from Jokic and Murray.
I agree. I don't think
in the regular season.
I don't think the Nuggets want to have to accept it.
Yeah.
I do think they felt, as most franchises do in that position, which is, what are we going to do? Not extend him? We're extending him. But I think I would wager that was a big part of the conversation, Adam. And remember, there was a conversation. They didn't just fax the contract over. There was a little bit of, hey, let's talk.
There was dinners.
There were dinners, and I would imagine this was a big part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I would imagine it was. I don't think anyone wants to deal with this every year. And honestly, it's where the criticism came from this season. Not, oh man, is he ever going to turn it back on again? Even though it did get kind of scary. I think most people probably thought, yeah, he still has it. But it was, are we really doing this again with the way last season ended? And unfortunately, that, Murray is kind of holding the organization and the fans hostage a little bit with this, because they do know they need him. We all know they need him. It would be great if this wasn't part of the story.
Yeah. What's next? These are good questions, guys. Good work today. And gals.
Nuggets fan, how bad do you guys want Jokic to pick up his 4th MVP? Do you think this may motivate the team even more to get the 2nd seed and push to close the gap with OKC?
I'll go first on this one. By far, the lowest of my priorities of the last 5 seasons. For the last 5 seasons, I've wanted Jokic to win MVP in some capacity over the others. Then you think about the justification for it. And it's not because I don't think Jokic doesn't deserve it or any of these types of things. It's a weird way Jokic's above the MVP now. And I know we like the historical comp of, like, would we love him to have the most MVPs of any player ever? Look at the category you get into. But nobody talks about MVPs in terms of, like, Michael has a lot, LeBron has a lot, Kareem has a lot. So those guys do have them. But nobody talks about Magic Johnson's or Larry Bird's or Kobe Bryant's. Like, those guys are already up there in the upper echelon because of their championships. So for me, I look at it and I go, Jokic has 3. If he got 4, yes, he would always be in rare company. But would that level him up in people's minds? In a weird way, he's above the MVP.
I completely agree.
And very few players have ever gotten to a point where they're above the MVP. I want him to get it. Should he deserve it? To deserve it, I think he would have to close the gap to deserve it unanimously, or like to where you can't really complain. I do think you have to close the gap a little bit on Shea, or they do play each other in March twice in a row, and maybe you just go out and dominate that game, and we're heading into the playoffs, and everyone goes, yeah, we know. So there's a path for him winning it. I just am not going to be as upset this year if he doesn't as I would have been in the 4 years prior to this.
Totally. I'm always going to love it if he wins one. I'm always going to love it. But it almost feels like when you start talking about 4 and 5 and stuff, that's insurance for his legacy if he doesn't win.
Yeah.
Just go win now.
Let's go win, man.
I agree, man, because I think once you kind of clear 3, or especially once you do something like 3 and 4, you are in this territory of, like, Jordan should have 8, LeBron should have 8. They don't.
Yeah.
That's just the way it works. There are a bunch of guys who probably could have won it 7 times in a row, and it just didn't shake out that way. And you know what? Jokic is just the latest of the top 10 players to kind of, like you say, clear that conversation. It's not that I don't want it. And if it gets close and he loses it, I'll care a little. But I do think that it's almost, for Jokic, it's just about winning now. And the more he wins, the rest will take care of itself.
And I do think there's something cool about the 2nd-round pick who snuck up on everyone, who was phenomenal in 2018, but people still couldn't pronounce his name and thought he was overrated. I think there's something cool about the end of his legacy being like, he had all these championships and Nobody even realized what was happening. He didn't even win the MVP the year. He averaged the literal greatest season ever by every advanced metric you can think of. Averaged a 30-point triple-double, and he didn't win it. There's something great about him having 3, 4, 5 championships and us being able to tell the story of the weirdest thing was, in the moment, he was so dominant, but nobody seemed to understand it. Even at 2025.
I still think that is the Jokic story.
I think it will be too.
I mean,
it is and will be.
So Bill Simmons, we know, huge Jokic fan. Like, huge. Catch him when he gets too excited about Victor Wembanyama, though, and listen to what he says. Best center prospect since?
Yeah.
You go, dude, you're skipping over your own guy. Like, I know he means prospect and but all of these A-plus outcomes for all these guys, we're so excited about what they could be. Their A-pluses may not scratch what Jokic is doing now. And I just still feel that there's even Mark Spears just like a few weeks ago said LeBron and KD, they're still looking for who to pass the torch to. And they're like, dude,
what?
The torch isn't even, what are you talking about? Yeah. They don't have it. It's not, there has been a guy of that echelon on the scene.
I love this idea that KD was on 2 absolute flame-out disaster teams. 1-2 in a row with Steph Curry's 73-win Warriors, and we're like, he had he never had it.
Yeah,
he never had it. He was in the conversation for trying to take it. How does he get credit for having, what did you say, the torch? How did he get the torch by joining Steph Curry and joining a team that barely lost?
He never even got it from LeBron. But that's the thing. I think, and that's the thing, man. I go, forget all these other conversations. Jokic is actually the guy that like LeBron passed the torch directly to.
Yeah.
That's his peer.
He took it right out of his hands.
Well, he took it out of his hands. That's his peer. It's not. So listen, man, awesome for SGA, awesome for the Thunder. I think he's more deserving of it than Embiid was that year. He won over Jokic. But
the difference between Shea and Embiid to me is that Shea's team is what now, 44-10? That's a crazy record, and
despite missing some guys, and I'm not sitting here. I mean, I think Jokic is clearly the most valuable player, but this is not one that will keep me up at night.
Yeah. All right, what else we got?
In SGA's MVP case, is it truly legit or is it strictly Jokic fatigue? Reason I asked this because I heard 2 voters on Wendy's pod saying they're voting SGA because he doesn't have one. Even if Jokic closes the gap, seems like a disingenuous way of voting.
To me, I'm sure there is some voter. I mean, who knows? Voters. We talk to a lot of capital J's, people that have the vote. Not always the most thoughtful in terms of like this type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I would actually be disheartening for you guys to like have the conversations with some of the people who get votes, and you'd be like, really, this is what it comes down to? You would probably devalue the MVP is what you would do, because you'd be like, oh, it was voted on by these guys, these chuckleheads. But so I think there's probably is some voter fatigue there. But the difference to me, like I said, Shea is having another good year. To me, it's nowhere near. Jokic's having maybe the greatest year ever. Shea's having a really good year. I think in 10 years, he's going to be this generation's Kobe. I think he has a chance to be that, which is to say like a really good player. But it really, I think less than voter fatigue, it'll come down to record. Is that fair or not? Team record? I don't know. But I do think that if they win 65, 67, 68 games, not a lot of teams do that. And that'll factor into people's voting fair or not.
That's the only, that to me is the case. It's different than saying someone had a better pound for pound season than Jokic. But I understand respecting that. SGA has been awesome.
Yeah. All right, let's move on now to All-Star, Kale. Even though we have a couple questions. Thank you guys for sending those in. But All-Star is this weekend, All-Star game. First of all, we got Julian Strawther and the Rising Stars. Do you watch the Rising Stars?
No. I mean, I've seen.
Yeah, but it's like not one that you have appointment in television?
No, I don't. I can miss that one for plans. You know what I mean?
Don't you feel, though, that Julian Strawther is made for an All-Star game?
Yes, 100,000.
So, I would not be surprised if he goes out there and really lights it up.
Really quick, since we're talking about it, and just because I made Kale pull it up at one point, Julian Strawther, getting to do some media as part of this event, did a great interview on Sirius, and he was asked about Malone coaching him hard after mistakes. And there was one particularly funny clip that we should have ready to go.
Going, and I think he was getting close to 40 points, and he walked into a 3 from the logo, and he made it on me, and coach immediately called timeout. And the funniest thing about this one was that he didn't say anything. He just walked up to me and looked at me and just stared at me, kind of just wondering what I was doing. Kyrie already has 40 points. How do you let him take another shot?
Just stared at him. My dad did that once. Didn't even say he just let me think it in my head.
Oh, man.
You messed up.
Let's go to the All-Star game now because, the ideas, man, Adam Silver, he had an idea to break them into 3 different teams and to let them all. And I thought this was going to be cool because it was going to be like schoolyard pick style, like, all right, let's see what happens here. Do you have all 3 teams together, Kale? Pull them up real quick. So they actually, if you look at this, they all have a theme. Chuck, international players. Scroll down so I can read who it is. Team Kenny, all the young guns, like the next generation. And then Team Shaq, all the OGs, all the old heads. And part of me goes like, this was such a fake draft.
Yeah, this is the most rigged we're setting this up.
You think this was predetermined?
Young guys, Americans, and international players ever.
So now we have this dumb little packaging. Like, I would put money on the OGs winning this now. Like, it's just going to be the story they want. Like, LeBron and Steph and KD still run the league. And, it's like, oh, my God.
I kind of think this might be a way to get guys to play hard, though, because, like,
maybe
if the young guys are playing defense because they want to show out, the old guys don't want to get embarrassed, and the same with the international guys. There is blood there.
I have to tell you what, Jokic does not care if he's embarrassed.
Well, not Jokic, but everybody else.
Yeah, I do think. I mean, the NHL's kind of doing it right now, right, with this 4 nations face-off thing.
Yeah.
I think if you actually take the veil off and just call it what it is, take the mask off, then guys might care.
What's the veil?
I think if you go, it's the rest of the world versus Team USA.
Yeah.
Forget all the conversation around it. Go play hard if you don't want to be. And so, just go former Yugo versus USA versus everyone else. You know what I mean? but maybe that would be a little bit of. Now, that all falls apart as soon as one group doesn't take it seriously. But getting pride involved.
Here's the broader thing, man. I would be so annoyed because no matter what, if the old guys win, we're going to hear 2 days of there's the old G's. They showed it's still their league, which is not a true narrative, but whatever, they'll make it. If it's the young guys, it's, the new generation took it from the old guys.
Yeah,
what I mean? There's a prepackaged narrative. I hate when there's a prepackaged narrative going into a thing that you're just like, I'm now going to be annoyed no matter what happens.
That's a really good point. You'll be extra annoyed once you actually watch the games.
I'm rooting instead for, the Rising Stars team winner.
That makes it, right?
Yeah, that's why I want to win the All-Star.
Oh, there was a great mailbag.
Julian Strother, find his All-Star MVP.
Shout out. I forgot to put it in the document. There's a great mailbag question. If Julian's Rising Stars team wins, does that make him Jokic's first co-All-Star?
Yeah, maybe, man.
Technically,
maybe. So ridiculous.
We're rooting for Julian Strother this All-Star weekend.
Jokic has never gone full tilt in the All-Star game. You know what I was wondering now, man? Because we do believe that Jokic is the guy of this era. The guy, without peer. Keep this up for another 4 or 5 years. Even Dirk, who was on the out sometimes in the Cool Kids Club for a while, when it was his last hurrah, the story was him.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if we'll ever get to a point, because is there a tipping point where Jokic's the guy that everyone has this reverence for? You know what I mean? We saw this with all the OGs, the Michaels and the Magics and even the Dirks, where it was your last hurrah and everyone's like, man, I can't believe I'm sharing the stage with the legend.
Yeah.
I just wonder if Jokic will ever be the centerpiece of All-Star Weekend where everyone's like, we all know it's Jokic's last one and everyone's just glad to be on the court with him. Keep feeding him the rock.
That's a great question. I'm going to say no. How about that?
It's his last one.
They just forget to draft him again? Yeah, that's actually where I'm leaning. Really quick.
Let me disagree though real quick and just say, I think if Jokic has another finals run like he did in 2023, because I think there was a new level of respect for Jokic amongst his peers after that. But, people have a short memory. You do that again this year. You got 3, maybe 4 MVPs, 2 championships. I do think you enter next year. LeBron's relevance, hopefully waning, this or that. I do just wonder if there's a way you walk into that room and everyone's like, yeah, we're all dudes, but that's the
culturally you're
dude.
The king now.
Yeah, that's the dude.
I agree. I mean, I think people already know that in the back of their minds. He's just not. He doesn't take up that kind of space in the league, right? The Cool Kids Club is kind of a good way to put it. By his own design, he just has nothing to do with it. But I already think we're kind of approaching more and more of it's this guy and it's everyone else. And I think people know that.
Guess Jokic's All-Star stat line. Give me a prediction.
7 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists.
7 points, 4 rebounds.
2 assists.
He's averaging right now in 6 All-Star games 7.3, 6.0, 4.8.
Oh,
That's what he's
6.0.
averaging.
Okay, cool. I undersold then. I was
So what? I'm saying, what do you? So you're guessing he has below career average
no. I'm
numbers
gonna
this
say
year?
average. I'll call
Well,
it
here's the
average.
problem with this game is it's first to 40. He might only play like 5 minutes and then be knocked out. The ideas man has a new idea that might actually have him not play very much.
But my overall point being, I do not expect a fundamental change in Jokic's approach to the game. So.
I'm going to give Jokic 10 assists
cool, man.
I'm going to give him 10 assists.
Well, then I'm watching.
And maybe
I'm
a
in.
couple threes. 10, 7, and 10.
Cool.
That's my prediction.
That was his first quarter the other night.
That was his first quarter. And then lastly, the dunk contest has Mac McClung in it, so I'm not watching.
This is his last one, though. You don't want to give him his send-off? No?
Who is in it again? I don't even remember.
I
Kale,
didn't
you
even
have it,
check
right?
it.
I have the 3-point one.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was going to make fun of it, the other one, but yeah,
Next-
let's just go ahead to the 3-point line.
Next year, the NBA should make up names and see if anyone
Well,
notices.
by the way, actually, real quick, have you seen this before we go to 3-point? Have you seen? I apologize that I'm not going to know what the organization it is, not the WNBA, but the women's one-on-one tournament.
Yeah, I already forgot as well. Just
Rifle over. I can't remember what. Unrivaled. Is that what it is? Whatever it is, one-on-one where
We're
they're all
getting
playing.
there.
And I'm not going to lie to you guys, kind of dope,
No, it's awesome.
super dope.
It's a really good television product.
It's
really
a great
exciting.
television product. It kind of feels heavy, like as in like it means something, you know?
Yeah, dude,
Like,
because that's...
They play really physical too. It's fun.
it like looks like they're actually trying to get over on
I mean,
each other.
I feel like winning or losing in one-on-one is like the currency of American basketball ego, man. Like, that's
Yeah.
how they do it. And I think credit to those ladies for doing it. Like, Brianna Stewart got swept.
Yeah.
She got it handed to her, man.
Yeah.
And everyone said this, I'm not the first to say it, but can you imagine LeBron even putting himself in that position?
No.
So I thought that was badass, actually.
It actually was very badass.
Yeah.
I like it. Shout out to the ladies. All right, the 3-point contest. Did you want to bring it up? Do you care? Somebody said Yoke should be in it. I'll be honest. I don't know if Yoke could get all of his shots up in time.
That's a really good point.
It's a slow
I
release.
also-
Why is Mike not in this? Why?
Yeah, Mike's the one
He may
we
have said
want.
no. He may have said no.
Yeah.
I don't know. With the
Gotta
home
get
run
his
derby, home run, a lot of power hitters don't like it because it messes with your swing and your rhythm. And I do wonder maybe if there's just a little bit, if you're in a great 3-point rhythm, you don't want to start shooting off the rack or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The other big miss here is it's in San Francisco, and Steph is not doing it with Golden State as the host.
Well, so I know Sabrina, is it Ionescu? She's from the Bay. Steph, obviously playing in the Bay. Them not running it back because Caitlin Clark said she didn't want to do it, to me is like insane. It's insane to me.
You think
How do
they
you-
should just do it anyway with someone else, like Sabrina and Steph? Yeah.
Also, I think that Caitlin Clark saying no to it is actually absolutely ridiculous. But it's like, hey man, this is the best way to kind of like promote the game and everything. It was honestly the best part of All Star last year was that Steph Sabrina shootout.
Yeah.
And to just not get it done for logistical reasons, to me, I'm like, where's the ideas man?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
did he go?
Yeah.
Where'd the ideas man go? We had an idea. All right, let's get to some super chats.
Drunk Philosophy. Hi, Adam and Vogt. Are we believers yet? Champs.
Not yet. But I'm on the path.
Kyle M. Hey, Vogt. What's up, Kyle? Mr. Exquisite Nugget. If we're doing 3v3, Cedric dunking on Adam and dunk on Simon, crisscross Kale, then hit dagger on Vogt. Brother, I feel like I'm having a stroke. MVP goes to Josh Barnett with Jokic watching.
Happy star.
Happy star. DJ Seahawk. Why can't we have an all-star game in Denver, guys?
Well, we had one back in 2005, I think.
At 5 or 6, and it's because they don't have enough 5-star hotels.
No, yeah.
Oh,
there you go.
DJ Seahawk. Good show, Vogt. Adam. No, Kale. DNVR. Build a new
I think it's
house.
supposed to be a hotel.
That's a hospital, though, right? Yeah. All right. Jake K. I was like, didn't know we had done that. Jake K, I get this sounds crazy, but if somehow MPJ continues to play like this for the rest of the season and we're early exit from the playoffs, maybe the solution is trade Murray or an MPJ number 2 option, trade for real bench, solve cap.
Let's not worry about that right now.
That's for the summer.
That's for the summer, man. That's for the summer. I
But
want to
shout out
lock in
JK.
with this team. Vote, I'm so excited. I'm taking a vacation early part of next week. Can't wait.
I'm headed out of town now, brother.
Yeah, you get out of town now, come back, I'll get out of town. We'll all kind of get our sun. But we will still have shows going on.
Of course.
And Vote will be back, obviously, as well. Dev's going to be an all-star. You're not going to want to miss any of that stuff. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Recharge those batteries, everybody. Hit the like button on the way out. We'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.